The following video is a recording from the Urban Forest Climate Resilience Workshop held October 3rd, 2024 by the Nature Conservancy as part of the Louisiana Resilience Program. This workshop was offered free to the public thanks to funding from the USDA Forest Service. We are happy to offer recordings of these sessions to make the information presented readily available to all. The following video is owned by the Nature Conservancy and should not be reproduced or distributed without our consent, and the content and information presented by each speaker is owned by them and should not be reproduced without their consent. Thank you.
All right, so next we have Reed Richard. He's the Assistant Superintendent of System Planning at BREC. He is my former supervisor when I was at BREC over Natural Resource Management. Reed has over 35 years of experience as a landscape architect and urban planner and currently serves as the Assistant Superintendent of System Planning at BREC. His responsibilities include park and recreation system master planning, park master planning, the design and construction of high-performing parks and recreation environments, and natural resource management. He oversees the planning and engineering department that includes administrative staff, BREC's capital construction division, a staff of landscape architects, planners, natural resource managers, and other design professionals. This is one of the parks that most recently had a reimagining and a phase 1 completion, which he's going to share some information about and some of how they look at BREC's systems as a connected environment. So welcome, Reed. Just record right here.
Thanks, Amanda, and thanks everyone who is attending. And we actually have a good number of BREC people here as well. Some of the planning and engineering staff and the natural resource management team, park operations, I see. And so glad you could make it. And welcome to Greenwood Park. I'm going to kind of give a very high-level overview of what BREC is doing system-wide in terms of interventions and green infrastructure interventions and what we've done here at Greenwood Park over the last few years, and finally complete the first phase. And we're going to be having a big grand opening this Saturday, actually. And so conservation has, for a long time, has been a major tenet of BREC. Amanda had a good, built that foundation, or helped build that foundation. We have acres of conservation area space that are conservation areas into themselves, and also conservation areas or units that are within big parks like Greenwood Park. And Greenwood Park is our biggest park at 660 acres. And so that tenet of conservation, that tenet of really trying to leverage our green infrastructure and take advantage of the ecosystem services that our green spaces, our forested areas, our wetlands provide, is really going to be a key focus. And we're looking at our parks as being multi-purpose. And so I thought I'd kind of start off with a brief overview of another project we just finished, and that's our 10-year system-wide master plan. And just going through some of the highlights of what it's going to feature in terms of a connected environment. First off, our 10-year master plan process took about 18 months. And there was a very long and robust community engagement process in there, lots of stakeholder meetings, lots of meetings with our staff, lots of surveys, scientific surveys. We went out to a lot of pop-up events. And so this plan is very much informed by the public. And so it is a 10-year master plan, and it covers everything that BREC does, not just in terms of conservation, but also our programs, our parks themselves, our capital improvements, and our operations and maintenance. And so within that plan, that 10-year plan, we also have 3 strategic plans. There will be 3 strategic plans, so that every 3 years we have a more detailed roadmap and strategy that's grounded in this system master plan. And so after all of that community engagement we had and data collection, we landed on these 5 guiding principles that are what really grounds the system master plan. One is welcoming everyone, making our parks, making our facilities more accessible and welcoming, focusing on quality, engaged community partnerships. Another tenet is connected people, really focusing on programming and how we provide those types of services to the community. Safety and security is another major focus that we're going to be looking at under connected people. Connected places, that has to do with how our visitors arrive at our parks, whether that's driving or biking or transit. It also has to do with one of our newer initiatives of building greenways, and those are off-road connectivity trails that are for transportation, but mainly recreational, to provide optional transportation for folks. Moving forward sustainably, we're trying to have a more sustainable portfolio, right-size the agency, making sure that the agency we can operate within our means, within our tax revenue, in terms of services and programs offered, and even in terms of facilities and parks. We have the most recreation centers of any per capita of any other park agency in the country. And we're looking to have a strategy to go to a more tiered model and to reduce that inventory and actually replace them with more quality recreation centers. And lastly, one of these 5 guiding principles is the connected environment. Last but not least, ta-da. And so the connected environment guiding principle has 5 primary goals. One is sustainable landscapes. How do we take some of our acreage, especially in our larger parks, and reduce our mowing footprint? Sustainable facilities, again, offloading some facilities that are hard to maintain and replacing them with more quality, less facilities but higher quality, and that means facilities are going to be more energy efficient. Water management. Our parks, as we'll see later, serve as sponges, and again, going back to that multi-purpose aspect and leveraging our green infrastructure, open space, forested areas. Heat resilience. This has become a major problem, even more so, it seems, after each summer lately. We want our parks to offer even more shade than they do, whether that's built structures, whether that's more indoor facilities in key places, and most importantly, planting more trees, open space preservation and environmental education. We want to do these things, but we also want to educate the public on the benefits and make them good stewards of our natural environment. This is a really beautiful parish, and it has a lot of interesting and varied and diverse habitats and landscapes. And these are just some thought or talking bubbles that we heard from the over and over again, actually, from some of the citizens when we did our public outreach. There was a real appreciation for what BREC does in terms of offering environmental benefits. They thought that, again, in terms of heat resilience, really, focusing on more shade, whether that's through trees or shade structures, more focus on our swamps and marshes and our unique habitats, and as opposed to, a more conventional park space. I think Bluebonnet Swamp is a great example. You really are immersed into a unique wetland habitat. And so they seem to want more of that. New experiences, immersion into our natural spaces, utilizing and leveraging our parks for flood risk reduction. And that's a major part of what we're doing here at Greenwood Park, which we'll go over further into the show. And, it seems as though there was a majority of people who look at our parks as more for passive and nature recreation as opposed to programmed. Real briefly, and this is another part of our system master plan, and how we can look at our parks, again, as green sponges, holding water and releasing it slowly and cleansing water, treating it before it goes into the gray infrastructure system. Cool and clean air, our forested areas, our wooded areas. They do a lot for carbon sequestration. Their evapotranspiration creates cooling benefits and just overall cleaning the air naturally. Home for wildlife. Enhance our biodiversity within our park system and within the parish, doing things that really foster that. Having more nature-based experiences, doing all these things, but really having the citizens able to come and really experience the natural habitats and the value of them. And again, that kind of leads into the cultivating stewardship of our citizens. A few other pages. I'm obviously not going to read all of these, but the system master plan generated some strategies for management and also some of these green infrastructure interventions. Again, planting more trees, less mowing, more meadows, more grow zones. Those are, if you're familiar with Howell Park, those are a great example of big swaths, big masses of native grasses and wildflowers that only need maintenance 2 or 3 times a year. When Amanda was at BREC, there was, I believe, also recently a prescribed burn as one maintenance regime. And again, as we implement more green infrastructure into our parks, we need to develop new maintenance regimes for that. So back here at Greenwood Park, and quick overview of the bigger picture of the master plan we have for Greenwood Park and how we arrived here in having a master plan. It all started with our zoo, which is located in Greenwood Park. It was reaching, or it's now over 50 years old, with a lot of aging infrastructure, a lot of aging exhibits that are sort of out of date. We hired a firm to do a feasibility study, and the result of that study was they thought that the zoo should be relocated and in a place that was maybe a little bit had higher market value, could attract more people, but ultimately that became a very controversial issue, and the decision was to keep it here at Greenwood Park. The commission voted to do that, and there was a lot of citizenry, including the mayor, that wanted that to happen. So we proceeded into having a master plan for this park and for the zoo, and we hired a consultant, Sasaki Associates, they're landscape architects, and they had a very large team of sub-consultants, some of them local, and went through a process similar to what I described for the system master plan, a lot of community engagement. And ultimately, we flipped the script from controversy and negativity to excitement and support, and had a big celebration and unveiling of the master plan after it was complete out here. Big attendance. So it was a real big shot in the arm to move forward with improving the zoo and also improving the park. And these are some of the key concepts that we wanted to integrate into this master plan, celebrating Louisiana's nature. This is a really beautiful park. There's acres and acres of wooded area, different habitats. upland, bottomland, wetlands, and bringing people into that and experiencing those spaces. Also, you know, a park that was a day-to-day park for people who will live around here to come and recreate in activity areas like the playground and other newer amenities that we're going to be introducing. Also trying to create a better connection to the park. It's bounded by 3 different highways, and finding ways and strategies to better reach out and connect to pedestrians and bicyclists. And just again, this was a design that was based on lots of community input. And this is a resulting master plan. Some of the environmental benefits of the overall master plan, which is fully built out, in terms of flood risk reduction, a lot more tree canopy. There was an 18-hole golf course, and a very big one, in fact, called Dumas Golf Course. We have a 9-hole that remained, but that acreage of that 18-hole golf course is part of this transformation, introducing a lot more reforestation and recreational amenities that are nature-based in that part of the park. We're going to be adding 16 acres of wetland and bayou habitat, and a lot more programmed activities. And so as you drove in, you probably saw some new features. You may have seen the bayou, which is Cypress Bayou, that's been resculpted. And we'll have some graphics on that in a few slides ahead. But all of that was part of our phase 1 of the master plan. And this is what phase 1 primarily consisted of, was some flood risk reduction opportunities of broadening the storage capacity and returning some of the Cypress Bayou to its more natural meanders, and introducing broader slopes with native vegetation. A new promenade that will connect the zoo to this side of Greenwood Park. When the zoo, previous to this project, there were people that frequented the zoo that never knew that Greenwood Park even existed, and vice versa. So they now share the same front door, basically. The entrance to the zoo has flipped 180 degrees. It's faces the park now, and hopefully some of you will be able to take a drive and see that. And improvements to J.S. Clark Golf Course, some of which the holes have been expanded to the park side, but not nearly the footprint that we had before of the 18-hole Dumas Golf Course. And also a really cool destination playground that's just right outside the door here. Very unique, one of a kind. I think it's going to be a major, for now at least, it's our signature playground. We're going to be having another one coming up at Airline Highway, and also one at Independence Park in the coming couple of years. So back to what we did in phase 1 in terms of bayou restoration, creating more stormwater capacity, holding water, slowly releasing it, cleansing water. This first slide there, I mean, the first little thumbnail on the left-hand side, you know, creating more linear feet of bayou. You know, it was more channelized than it is now. And then those creating that additional linear feet was really trying with the method to do that was connecting to the historic meanders, and then in those meanders, laying back the slopes of the portions of the bayou that were channelized, and again, you know, doing that to slow down stormwater, to cleanse it, to hold more, and just reduce downstream and upstream flooding. This is another nice graphic, and I have to say, all of these graphics I have to credit goes to Sasaki Associates and DDG Partners, which is a local multidiscipline firm here in town. But this kind of shows, okay, in the photo below, that the bayou was originally very channelized. And then on either side were these remnants of the historic meanders, and then reconnecting those. And this slide is a little bit more detail on some cross sections of what that looks like. Building shelves when the slope is laid back. Lots of new native vegetation, native trees, native shrubs, grasses, and we'll talk more about that. Sharon, who is our natural resource management lead, will be kind of taking us on a stroll. All of this work involved an Army Corps of Engineers permit, because we were basically doing a lot of reworking of a waterway that was waters of the U.S. It also required a parish floodplain permit. And so the residual benefits of all this was also a lot more recreational opportunities, more bayous to more sections of bayous that can be canoed, and also phase 2, which is going to include the lake, making a lot more recreational opportunities of the lake. And also, as part of that, decommissioning of an 18-hole golf course, dredging, the spoils that creates, the earthwork and the excavation. We're going to be creating landforms on the northern part of the park for more also nature-based sort of experiences, canopy walks, even zip lines, just a lot more nature-based recreation and experiences. And also, going back to educating the public about our natural systems and about how parks are very beneficial from an environmental standpoint. One of the things we did have to value engineer out of the first phase was we had some offshoots of the Bayou Promenade, which we did build, that kind of meandered a bit and were more like stopping moments, really cool pavilions that kind of take you, that were kind of lower down towards the bayou itself, and places for a spite, places to host events, gatherings, and just have a lot of educational information. Even our playground, which we had to scale back, it was actually going to be twice as big as it is now, and we hope to do that in phase 2. But the playground was going to extend more into the adjacent wooded area, so the kids, it would be more of a lot more nature adventure type playground. And these are some shots of construction, and for the most part, the bayou that Cypress Bayou, the sections that we worked on were from here at the weir that is just immediately south of the lake towards the zoo. And here you can see there was a lot of earthwork done. Jute mat was laid down. Lots of native grasses and plantings and trees. Gabion walls were also put in along New Entry Road. And again, some of the other smaller green infrastructure interventions were part of the overall design and construction. This is the zoo parking lot. In between the big parking stalls, we had bioswales, with all the runoff from the parking lot is directed to these bioswales to treat the water, cleanse it, and improve water quality, and also slow down stormwater runoff. And there were some trees that were required to be felled, and these were cut up and used as sort of remnants in a lot of the bayou area and other parts of the park to kind of create more habitat. And some of them were also treated with a special treatment that is environmentally friendly and used as purposefully in the playground area, and also some steps that go down to the bayou that are off of the bayou promenade that we might swing by and see that area. Again, these are the native plantings, the green infrastructure that also extended to the playground. This was shortly after it was completed, which was about 9 months ago. A lot of those plants have grown in a lot more than you see there. The trees are mostly sweet bay magnolias, but eventually, as these plants, native plants, grow in more, they'll help reduce the amount of invasives and other weeds. And couldn't resist to just show a slide or two about some of the improvements at the zoo. There's a new giraffe exhibit with a feeding platform that we didn't have before, where kids and adults can go and get up close and personal and feed the giraffes. It also has a new night house. And in terms of phase 2, which will be from the lake moving north all the way to the northern end of Greenwood Park, BREC applied for and won a Louisiana Watershed Initiative grant of roughly $5 million. And most of that is going to be concentrated here at Greenwood Park. But Cypress Bayou also goes down and kind of threads together our Sharon Hills Park and Comey Park as well. And we're going to be doing some minor improvements in those parks. But here at Greenwood, as if you may have seen already, if you step outside in the back, the lake is in very poor health. It's similar to the lakes, the university lakes around City Park and LSU. Lots of sediment buildup. Can no longer really recreate in it, and it's probably a foot or less deep throughout. So this project is going to be dredging that lake and even expanding it to create more capacity for stormwater, and also doing the same kinds of concepts and treatments on the northern part of Cypress Bayou that were in phase 1, and creating a forebay at the northern end upstream. The forebay will be similar to what is also happening at the University Lakes, where sediment from hardscape, from roads, from rooftops, brought in and intercepted by the forebay, which is be much deeper than the lake. The sediment will settle out and also will help cleanse the water, and it will return kind of back into the bayou. And this is again some of the benefits. This was some H&H modeling done by our engineers who worked on this plan. The weir is also going to be modified to be a foot or two lower than it currently is, to allow more freeboard in the lake. The lake is going to be dredged to be about 5 feet deep, and so that freeboard will allow for more storage capacity during severe rain events. And again, doing these same things that we did for Cypress Bayou here in phase 1, to the north to Lady Lane. This is kind of a close-in shot of the northern area where the bayou is and where it enters the lake. There's also going to be a promenade that we'll have along the bayou. Again, the bayou currently up in this area is more channelized than what's seen here. So creating the meanders, creating more broader slopes, as you see in that section. A lot more recreational opportunities there as well. probably a canoe launch up closer to where the forebay is. And on the southern end, lake expansion will take place. There'll be a lot more interesting journeys that people can take when they get in their canoes or kayaks. Most of this area you see here would be new expanded lake that doesn't currently exist. And all of this is going to produce a lot of dredged material, and some of which we're going to use on the south end of the park and the north end of the park. What you see there on roughly on number 7 in the master plan, that dredged material will help build up an amphitheater. And that there's a rendering there at the bottom of what we envision for that. And thank you. Have any questions? Everyone ready to go outside? Yeah.
Just kind of wanted to point out, I mean, I think it's important that, you know, as much as we talk about planting trees and the planning associated with all of that, parks are one of the most applicable kind of open areas that we have to plant in cities. So it's nice to see a real world example of this happening. And sometimes, yes, you can just do a planting and get the funding for that, but other times it's part of a much larger picture. And so I think this is a really good example of how that could be tied into larger green infrastructure and stormwater planning.